1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. No, that's not 8. 8, 9, 10. We're just a couple folks short of a quorum. So let's just wait a couple more minutes. And in the meantime, I will put the agenda, consent agenda, in last month's minutes in the chat. If I can find the chat. Hey, everyone, I've put in the chat tonight's agenda, consent agenda, and the minutes for the month of June. I saw that there was one person who said that she had no sound.
Just left the meeting and I assume is going to try to log back in.
Okay. If she has no sound, I don't know how to tell her to check or mute or her audio.
I'll deal with it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Carol, are you ready?
Hi, Debbie. Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Thanks. Okay, then
I'm ready.
I'm sorry, who was that?
I think it was Mr. Buckley, but I've muted him.
Great, thank you. Okay, everyone, then I'm going to call the NPU-F July 19, 2023 meeting to order. I'm Debbie Skupczynski. I am chair of the NPU. I'm joined by Kay Stevenson, who should be on your screen. Kay is co-hosting the meeting with me. Also present is Carol Shinara, who is our secretary for tonight. She'll be taking minutes. And by Doug Young, who is the Director of Office of Design in the Department of City Planning. He is our assigned planner. Our zoning co-chairs, Rebecca Faulkner and Jack White, are also on the call. We do have two agendas. Please note there are two agendas. There's a full agenda that has all of the applications that we'll consider tonight. That one is the agenda with the map in the upper corner. We also use a consent agenda, which includes applications which historically this NPU has approved with little or no discussion. If you are here for an application, please check the full agenda. That's the 2-page agenda. with the map to find it. Both agendas you should be able to find them in the chat. I know that most people have used Zoom before, especially since the pandemic, but for those that need a refresher, Zoom publishes a participant list, which includes everyone who is attending this meeting. Your name should be at the top of the list. If there's more than one person using the same device, please include both names on the participant list so that we can get an accurate attendance report. Click on the word more, M-O-R-E, to the right of your name to find an option to rename. All residents of NPU-F may vote on any issue unless there is a financial interest in the application or motion. For example, property or business owners may not vote on their own applications, but can vote on everything else. If you're not an NPU resident, business owners may vote if they have met the requirements as described in our bylaws. The voting rules on the bottom of the full are on the bottom of the full agenda. Please refrain from voting if you do not live in one of these neighborhoods: Lendridge Martin Manor, Piedmont Heights, excuse me, Morningside, Virginia Highland, Edmond Park, and the Druid Hills streets north of North Decatur in the city of Atlanta. If you see a letter V in front of your name, please don't remove it. This is our indicator that you are a verified member. We use this indicator when there is a large number of participants or a particularly divisive issue. Tonight is a fairly routine agenda, and we will not be identifying verified members. There is a chat room for you to share comments to an individual or everyone in the meeting. For most of you, it'll be at the bottom of your screen. Zoom has just changed their application again, so you may have to do a little bit of searching for it. You'll also find copies of the agenda, consent agenda, and minutes for June. Representatives from the city will leave their contact info or other info in the chat. The chat room will be monitored for comments and questions, but we will only be answering questions if they are relevant to the topic being discussed. You may save the chat at the end of the meeting or before you leave by clicking on the 3 dots at the bottom of the window. Please keep your comments respectful tonight and avoid language you wouldn't use in front of your parents. If I see that comments have become inappropriate, I'm going to turn off the chat for the remainder of the meeting. At NPU-F, our meetings follow a town hall format. If you wish to speak, use the raise your hand icon found under the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. If you are on the phone, you would click *9 and that will raise your hand. You will be called on to speak in the order that the hands go up. Be sure to stay muted until you are invited to speak, and then identify yourself and turn on your camera so folks will know who is speaking. To mute or unmute, you would click *6. For most routine matters, I will either ask for unanimous consent or for a motion and call on the first 2 people who call out to make the motion and second. Many of our motions are made by folks who frequently attend the NPU meeting. That is the only exception to the raise your hand rule. Please keep all questions and comments germane to the topic being addressed and respectful of everyone in the meeting. To allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'm going to ask that you only speak once on a topic unless you are asked for clarification or a question on previous remarks. Please limit your comments to 90 seconds or less unless otherwise instructed. Most people who attend NPU meetings are here because they feel strongly about an application. I especially want to hear from you if you are opposed to an application or if you think there is something that should be noted to make a project more conducive to the neighborhood. Please don't be shy about your point of view. And if I'm moving too quickly through the agenda, please call me out. Sometimes I get in a roll and forget some important steps. That's me. So that we can all hear and can get a good recording, it's important that only one person speaks at a time If we are picking up background noise or if you interrupt or hog the floor, you will be muted. Finally, and this is important, we are here tonight because the city provides Atlanta residents through the NPU system the opportunity to provide recommendations and comments on applications and legislative changes that impact their quality of life. It is our responsibility to tell them what we think and when appropriate to share the strength of that opinion through NPU vote counts. But all the votes taken at the NPU are only recommendations. Final decisions are made by city boards, city administrators, or city council, and I hope that you will take advantage of expressing your opinion there as well, either in writing, by phone, or by making a comment during public hearing opportunities. Once again, I want to apologize for the late start to the meeting. Our room was occupied by another group and we had to work that out. The first order of business tonight is to adopt the agenda. There is one addition to the agenda under new business, and that's to add proposed bylaw amendments. Are there any other additions? If you have any additions, would you please raise your hand? Okay, I don't see any other changes. Are there any objections to approving the amended agenda? If you have an objection, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised, so the amended agenda is adopted. We do want to approve last month's minutes. Our other co-secretary, Aruna Narasimhan, took the minutes last month. They have been posted on the NPU-F website, and they were sent to those on the NPU mailing list, which includes our verified members. Are there any corrections or modifications that need to be made to the June minutes? If you have any corrections to the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. Are there any objections to adopting the June 2023 June 2023 minutes? I see no objections. The minutes are adopted. There are no announcements tonight, so we're going to start with reports from city departmental representatives. Atlanta APD, Zone 2 and Zone 6. Are you here tonight? I think I see Zone 6.
Captain Graham, Zone 6 Assistant Zone Commander. I'm working on the name change. We haven't populated yet. I don't have much for you guys tonight. We are trending in the right direction. Of course, we're still experiencing the Hyundai and the Kia thefts. We have clubs at the precinct. It's on a first come, first serve basis. I'm pretty sure you guys heard it on the news. They've been airing that out on the news over the last week or so. We have made some great arrests in the zone as it relates to these Hyundai and Kia thefts. We arrested a crew, I want to say last week, some juveniles. They are still in jail. I think that has helped us, our numbers decrease a little bit. They've admitted to stealing about 13 of those Hyundais and Kias, but we think they're involved in about 50. The investigation is still ongoing, and they're trying to determine which neighborhoods that these vehicles were stolen out of. We're still pushing the clean car campaign. We're still having a lot of guns, weapons taken from people's vehicles because they're not securing their vehicles. Connect Atlanta. If you have cameras on your homes or your businesses, please push that out to get those registered through Connect Atlanta. That's all I have for you guys tonight. I'm open for questions. I left my information in the chat if anybody wants to give me an email and holler at me a little bit offline.
Thanks, Captain Graham. Does anyone have any questions for Zone 6? I don't see any hands raised except for Lieutenant Colton from Zone 2. Did you have a question for Zone 6? If not, go ahead. Lieutenant? Hello. He was having trouble joining the meeting.
He says he's unable to unmute.
Oh, well, let's see if I can. No, I don't think I can unmute someone.
It says host will not allow him to speak.
Well, it's not true. We're not in. Okay. I'm going to try and figure out what's.
You can make him a co-host.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Actually, he could try now. I found a. Oh,
Lieutenant Colton, I just made you a co-host. That may allow you to unmute. Okay. While we're trying to figure that out, let's jump over to Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. Chief Matt Driver.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Matt Driver, Battalion 3A shift. Just got a few quick items for you today. I had them up, and as soon as I clicked on the screen, they went away. I'll see here. First of all, glad to be here this evening. All is going well here at Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. Just a few things to go over. We are hiring at Atlanta Fire is hiring right now. And I put the application process, if you know anyone that graduated or is maybe looking for a career change, Atlanta Fire Rescue is hiring. The applications have to be in, on, or before August the 4th. So we're getting pretty close on that application process. But like I said, if you know anybody, we definitely love to have our members of the city to be a part of our department. Also a few things as far, I don't know that I've ever done this on one of the NPUs, but we have quite a bit of social media that comes out through Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. It's really good to find out what kind of programs and different things that we have going on in the city. Also, we do updates for the preparedness, the mayor's preparedness office as well. So get some public service announcements on there, keep up to date on what's going on with Atlanta Fire Rescue. I put those in the chat as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just a good quick way to keep up with kind of what's going on in the city along with us as well. We just had a very large promotional process, and we're promoting about 150 people total in Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. That's a really good thing just for our city and for the department. Those new promotees will have a consistency, and it's just going to be a good thing. And we finally got that process completed, and those promotions will take place this coming up week. The Peachtree Road Race, we just had that last week or so, and it went over very well. And any of you out there that had any help with that process, thank you so much. It all went really smooth. We didn't have any problems. And last but not least, we're starting our hydrant season, our hydrant process for hydrant maintenance, and locating hydrants is going to start a little earlier. So if you see members of Atlanta Fire Rescue Department in your neighborhood, they'll be flushing the fire hydrants, they'll be painting the fire hydrants. Just know that nothing is wrong. Basically, it's a yearly check that we do. We actually do it bi-yearly with our fire hydrants to make sure everything's working correctly. But other than that, I really don't have anything, but I'll be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for the chief? I don't see any hands raised. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Lieutenant Colton can speak. I don't see any indicators on why he can't. Lieutenant Colton, should we try again?
Well, now he shows muted again.
Okay. I don't know. I just can't. There's nothing that I've got. There's nothing for me to hit that, because the message that he has, he sent me a copy of it, says, are not allowing participants to unmute. And other participants have been unmuting, so I don't get it.
I don't either.
Debbie, I would suggest maybe he logs out and logs back in.
He already did that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's got to be something on his end of Zoom. Maybe we can ask him to put anything relevant in the chat and move on.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Lieutenant Colton, could you please put your report in the chat for others, and if anyone has any questions, we'll ask them to communicate with you that way. I just don't know what is causing this problem, but I will find out. Okay, is there anyone here from APD Code Enforcement? ATL. Oh.
APD Code Enforcement here.
Oh, okay. Officer Young?
Yeah, this is Officer Young with APD Code Enforcement. Hope everyone's having a great evening. All right, so just want to start off by saying anytime anyone sees any code violations, we ask that you dial 311 to report those violations, or I will be leaving my information in the chat in just a moment. You can always send an email to me, text message, or give me a call, and we'll get out there and put eyes on whatever you're reporting. But like I said, the quickest way to get something in our queue to be looked at is to reach out to 311 through the website or through calling it in. And again, like I said, if it's something that you prefer to just call and be anonymous about, you can do that. And so I have a few stats from the NPU. These are going to be stats for the past 90 days. I'm sorry, for the past 30 days. So in total, there have been 34 cases in the NPU in the past 30 days. There's been 5 highly hazardous cases, and the rest of them were just regular property maintenance. And that is the number of cases that's been for the month. 8 of those cases were investigated and found no violation. You have 11 in notice mailed status, which means someone has been mailed a notice and given 30 days to comply the violations on their property. There's 1 still in the research process where they're looking for the owner. And there's 4 that are about to be ticketed. And there are 4 cases that are still in the officer's queue right now that are waiting to be investigated. So there is one property that I have on my list that to give you guys an update on, and that is the property at 1386 Wayne Avenue. So last month I didn't have my notes in front of me. It looks like an Officer Mitchell, who is over the NPU, looks like she wrote another citation because the previous citation was returned as unable to be served. So that new citation was written and is now still attempting to be served. Doesn't look like that one has been served yet, but a new address was found for the resident, and service attempts are being made now. And hopefully I'll be able to get back to you guys with some good news soon on that property will be heard about in court, and we can move from there. Does anyone have any questions or issues that I can take back to Officer Mitchell? And again, like I said, I'll put my information in the chat as well, so that you're able to email me or text me about any of that as well.
Officer Young, there are a couple different code enforcement agencies in the city. Can you remind us which ones that your department's responsible for?
So there are 5 different code enforcement agencies for the city. Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement, we do housing. So we do any violations of someone not keeping up their house, or say a landlord not keeping up a property and making it livable for the tenant. We are also over the state of the building for commercial properties as well. So if someone's their dumpster's full and overflowing or something like that, that would fall on us as well. If they have exits blocked, that's also something that we can do. If they have, paint flaking and peeling off the walls of commercial buildings or residential homes as well, or apartment buildings, any of that. So it's just housing violations, property maintenance issues more so. If there is an open and vacant house in your neighborhood and you think people might be squatting it, that would be also something that we can work on.
Okay, great, thanks. There are a couple hands raised. Holly Sassnet?
Thanks, Debbie, and thanks for being here, Officer Young. Regarding the 1386 Wayne Avenue house, I don't know if you're able to state the owner that you're trying to contact, because within the ASILA system and looking at some of the permitting and also past violations that are listed, it's listing the previous owner who sold the house in 2020. And I just want to, I know that you've been having trouble locating the owner, and I just want to make sure that you are seeking the current owner.
So it's Adam Rogers.
Okay, that's correct.
Yeah, I think that was the issue previously, and why another citation had to be issued.
Okay, great. Is there any way to correct that? Will that continue to happen in ASILA? Would you know?
No, because once an inspection is done, it goes to our research team, and they pull any documents they can on the home. They pull the deed, any bills of sale that are available, and sometimes it's those documents haven't been updated properly, and they come back with the wrong owner. And when that does happen, they're able to deep dive a little bit more and look for new owners, and sometimes they have to reach out to different departments to get that information. So sometimes it does happen. That's more so of a human error thing, sometimes on our side, but most of the time on that falls on other departments who are not keeping records accurate and updated. But it's not an Excel thing though.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just wondering because there's some other permits that are problematic that have the wrong name on them too. So I'm just curious.
Yes,
Hopefully that'll be corrected. Thank you very much.
no problem.
Thanks, Holly. Stephen Ramsden.
Hey, thanks, Officer Young, for being here. I appreciate you, man. So I don't know if I had the right department or not, but we have a trust from Los Angeles that purchased the property next door to us with a shared driveway and yard. And their only intention is to make it an hourly and daily rental via Airbnb and other services. And I know they don't have a license, and I know they're not following any of the existing city codes. So are you is your office the one that would handle something like this? And what should we do as people who obviously don't want hourly rentals, next door to our house?
So that would be a zoning thing if they're not allowed to have that, if they're not allowed to run an Airbnb or a home sharing service there, that would be a zoning issue most likely. So you can reach out to 311 or you can send an email to Code Busters as well, and they can come check it out because I guess technically it could be considered a rooming house at that point.
Yeah.
And that would be a Code Busters issue for zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Bonnie Brown.
Yes, I have a question about the Atlanta Gaslight property on Monroe Drive that has graffiti all over it. And I initially contacted the company, and after 6 calls, they said they would come out and paint it. And they painted about 10 feet of a 60-foot fence, and then it was immediately graffitied again. So then I called 311. And I'm wondering how long it takes for 311 to respond.
They should be able to have a case created to go into the officer's queue within 24 hours. Sometimes it's almost immediate that it goes into the officer's queue. So do you know the full address on Monroe Drive?
I know that it is on Monroe Drive between the entrance to the Botanical Garden and Dutch Valley.
Gotcha.
It's a commercial facility. It for a very long time had a solid black fence, and now it's graffiti over even the electric poles, and it should be painted over, I believe. I've even offered them I'd paint a mural there if they wanted, but something other than what's on there now.
Let's see. So I'll go by there tomorrow and take a look at it. Without the address though, without the street number.
Well, if you can find the
1313. It's 1313 Monroe Drive.
Okay, that's great.
And there's a re-inspection scheduled for the 29th of August. And at that point, if the graffiti is still there, it will go into the civil process and they will be in court. They'll be meeting us in court over it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anybody else?
See any other hands raised? Thank you, Officer Young. I appreciate your being here tonight.
Thank you. And my information is now in the chat. So if anybody needs it, you can, like I said, you can send me an email, text, or call.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and see if Lieutenant Colton can join.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Listen, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I really do. But first and foremost, I think this is probably my first time with this group. I do see a couple of names I recognize, but nonetheless, I'm Lieutenant Colton. I'm assigned to Zone 2 Crime Suppression Unit. And just to kind of give you a nutshell summary of what our job is that our officers are tasked with going out in some of the areas that we're facing challenges with some of the larceny from autos, some of the vehicle thefts and other crimes that we like to address, and some of the quality of life cases as well. Our officers go out on a daily basis and they deploy in those areas and to address those concerns. One of the things that we continue to face in Zone 2 is the larceny from autos, and not to sound like a broken record, because I understand that everyone that you may come in contact with from the police department continue to preach the clean campaign for the vehicles. And basically we're asking that, you know, if you're parking your vehicles, anything that is of value, such as iPads, any cell phones, iPods, anything that you can think of, we just asking that you consider taking those items out of your vehicle so that, you know, you reduce the chances of your vehicle being targeted for those crimes. But nonetheless, we continue to do a good job with going out on a daily basis and addressing those issues. One of the things I wanted to address is as far as with the allure investigation, we've been working very closely with our license and permits units to address that. And one of the things about those investigations is that they're very thorough and that they make sure that we dot all our I's and we cross our T's when it comes to that or whatever. So that investigation is still ongoing, and we're hoping that we definitely get some results from that you all will definitely be appreciative of. So, you know, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions for Lieutenant Colton while we've got him? I don't see any hands raised. I'm sorry you had to work so hard to get on. Thank
Well,
you.
yes. Once again, I apologize for that, but I'll make sure that I leave my contact information. If anyone want to reach out offline, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. And most important, continue to improve on the wonderful working relationship that we've established with the community. Without you all support, I don't think that we will be able to enjoy the success that we've been having over the past few years as it pertains to fighting crime and making the community safer. So on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department, Major Mitchell, the Zone 2 commander, as well as Captain Vaines, the Assistant Zone 2 commander, I just want to say thank you for your continued support as we continue to move forward.
Thank you. Those are very kind words, and we appreciate you too. Thanks. Have a good evening. Okay, Atlanta 311. See if we can get back on track.
Hello, everyone. Just bear with me. I'm a little under the weather. Hi, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Forbes, and I'm your 311 ambassador. If you need to report non-emergency issues like potholes, water main breaks, missed trash, code violations, or challenges with city services, 311 offers 5 pathways to resolution. You can either dial 311 on your phone Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can send us an email at atl311@atlantaga.gov. You can also set up your own account at www.atl311.com, or even download the ATL 311 mobile app and chat with our virtual assistant. You can also contact us on social media to report issues. Our contact information and a survey link will be placed in the chat. I'm here today to answer questions about 311 services, document cases requiring escalation, and have someone follow up with you directly. I will ask that those who are able to use the chat function to utilize the chat at this time for questions or reporting any issues along with any case numbers. And for those who cannot, I will open the floor now with my remaining time on the agenda to assist. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions, or can you please leave them in the chat? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So thank you. If you could just hang around for a little while just to see if anyone adds anything in the chat. Is Public Works Code Enforcement here? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Corley?
Hey, Debbie, sorry, I couldn't get my hand raised quick enough. Hey, good evening. From 311. We've had several tickets that we've opened regarding 2 minor things. One, the installation of a dead end sign at Elizabeth Ann Lane. And 2, a request to have speed monitors put in on Sheridan Road to try to measure how bad the speeders are, because we have a big problem with people speeding up and down the road, but we've not really made any progress on those. And I believe they continue to get closed out.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Do you have the case numbers? I can take a look at them.
Yeah, I can grab them and try to pop them into the chat for you.
Okay, no problem. Yep, you can direct chat them to me and I'll look into it.
Perfect. Thanks.
Great,
No
thank
problem.
you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone here from Public Works Code Enforcement? Is there anyone else here representing a department from the city of Atlanta that has a presentation tonight? Okay, I don't see anyone. Are there any elected officials here or representatives from an elected official's office? It's the summertime, so Elise Adams, are you here representing someone or do you have a question? Okay, your hand went back down.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, it's the wrong profile. It's Jonathan Harris from Commissioner Hall's office.
Oh, okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about my tardiness. My name is Jonathan Harris. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Commissioner Natalie Hall, District 4, which is your commissioner. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Get to the pressing issues here. There was a item on the agenda at the previous BLC meeting to increase the millage rate from 8.87 to 9.3724. There was a couple things that happened. That motion failed. There was a second motion offered for it to go to 9.054. That motion failed. The final motion on the floor by Commissioner Bob Ellis was to increase the millage rate to 9.274. In regards to that, we do have to advertise that. There will be 3 public hearings. The first public hearing will be August 2nd, 2023 at our next BLC meeting at 10 a.m. You can access this by Zoom as well. August 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that meeting as well if you're not able to show up in person. And then our final meeting will be August 16th, 2023 at 10 a.m. The millage rate will be set at the August 16th recess meeting of the BLC that will commence at 10 a.m. There are some concerns about the millage rate increase, and I'm willing to take any questions or concerns at this time. A number of reasons for the increase is that the Board of Commissioners has not raised the millage rate. Since for the last 5 years, they have managed to decrease the millage rate. But with the current state that we're in right now and needing a new jail, we need a hospital in South Fulton. They are bringing on 2 senior multi-purpose facilities, one in North Fulton, one in South Fulton, and also some renovations to a couple of senior centers that need it. This is part of why they're making the recommendation to increase the millage rate at this point. I can go on record, and Commissioner Hall has stated on record at the last previous BLC meeting, she does not support an increase to the millage rate. However, something has to be done in order to deal with the unanticipated 2023 expenses. There's $5 million right now in emergency jail funding that we had to do. There's $19.7 million being requested right now to do a jail bridging plan. This would include intake, medical, food, personnel, facilities, and other accommodations. And then we've set aside $40 million to partially fund the design of the replacement jail or to incur the cost of the insurance of construction bonds at this current moment. So Madam Chair, with that, I will yield for any questions. Our meetings are located at 141 Pryor Street. This is our Assembly Hall at our Fulton County Government Center.
Okay, Ms. Fisher, does this answer your question in the chat and where the meetings are held? Okay, great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Harris? Regarding, oh, I see a hand, Rich Sussman?
You're muted, Mr. Sesson. Mr. Richard, you're muted.
Rich? Yeah, can you unmute?
Okay. On point with the millage rate, please remind the commissioners that even though the millage rate hasn't increased for the last 5 years, our assessments have increased substantially over the last 5 years. I'm not sure if that's been taken into consideration, but I think that's something to consider when they're thinking about increasing the millage, because the amount that how our residences have been assessed have increased anywhere from, well, it varies. You know, sometimes 5%, sometimes 50% over the last several years. So it's not like the same amount of money is coming into the coffers of the county because of the increase in the assessments. That millage, that amount that goes to Fulton County has increased despite the millage rate being the same. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, I did send a message to the commissioner today, is that West Nile virus was detected by the Fulton County Board of Health at one of our parks recently, at Orem Park. And I'm just wondering what this procedure is for Fulton County to test for West Nile virus in parks that are within the county. You know, is it random, or are there criteria? You know, we do have a number of parks in our NPU. So I think if we could get some information of how that's done, and then perhaps send us to the appropriate website so people can get a little bit better idea of what to do if West Nile virus is detected in our area, so not to cause too much or any alarm.
So in partnership to address the West Nile virus, in partnership with the Fulton County Board of Health, they are coordinating with the City of Atlanta Departments of Parks and Rec. The county does not own any parks, so we are in collaborations with the City of Atlanta how to address those issues. And so once there's a strategic plan put in place due to the outbreak at a couple of parks, we will have that plan and be more than willing to share that plan once it's in place. But I do know that our Board of Health Department is meeting with the Parks and Rec team to figure out what that looks like and how to address those issues. But we were made aware of it over the weekend. They did send an alert out to all the commissioners and staff, and they are addressing it as quickly as possible.
So if you do get some information by the time of the next meeting, could you please share it with us, or send at least the chair the link so we can get that more information about that? We'd appreciate it.
I most certainly will. And to address your concern about the tax assessments, we are aware that the tax assessments have went up. We are in the process. There are some FAQs. If you feel like your tax assessment was a little high than normal, there are some things that you can do as residents to speak with the tax assessor's office to make sure that it was done the correct way. I can send that to the chair of those things that they have put out. We are in the process, before raising the millage rate, we are in the process of still looking at different avenues of ways to not increase the millage rate. However, this was a plan that was brought to us by our finance team. And so they're putting everything on the table at this point. So there has not been a definite plan in place whether the millage rate will increase. Again, the proposal was 9.374. The Board of Commissioners voted that down. The final motion on the floor was 9.274, is what they're increasing it to if it does pass. And so there's a couple of commissioners I can tell you that are not in support of a millage increase at this current stage. And so we have asked the finance team and the county manager to go back and look at the drawing board and figure out a different plan and bring that back to us before the next meeting. And so they're currently doing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jonathan, could you put the meeting details in the chat You went over them pretty quickly, and I think there's a lot of interest in attending or somehow participating. So,
I will definitely do that. Yes, ma'am.
okay, great, thank you. There are a couple other hands raised. Jack White. Jack, don't forget to unmute.
What a good idea. Mr. Harris, I was stunned by the notices about spraying at Orem Park. I was stunned because there was the only notice provided to the citizens was some leaflets on doors. The neighborhood association wasn't notified. I don't know, there was no attempt to convey what was being sprayed and how. It didn't distinguish between, I don't want to be critical of the contents of the spray without knowing what they are, but in general, nationwide, there's been an outcry against indiscriminate spray that applies to all kinds of pollinators and honeybees. And again, I'm just raising the general point because the larger point is we have no information about this. I couldn't find it on your website. I couldn't find it anywhere. Our council member didn't have it. So, sir, I think it's outrageous. And I wish that at minimum on the sharing the information that there would be a systematic attempt. I would put a link to it on the Fulton County webpage to say, worried about spraying, go here, or info about spraying. So that would be one point. The last point is I want to take up is Mr. Sussman's. I'll just self-interest alert, this is me, but also hundreds of others that I know about here. Our taxes are way up and it's great, things cost more, got it. Happy to pay my school taxes, I am. We want good schools. But I do think that many other jurisdictions have been able to offer discounts to seniors after a certain number of years of paying their taxes, or to freeze them at a certain maximum. And I urge you, and I ask that you take to your commissioners, I'd like an explanation of why that's not even under consideration in Fulton, or correct me if I'm wrong, that would be great. Thank you, sir.
So two parts. I understand your frustration. Most of you guys might not know Fulton County doesn't have a lot of say so in the Board of Health anymore. There was a resolution a couple of years back that took the Board of Health from under Fulton County's purview and changed it into a state agency. And so the Fulton County Board of Health reports to the state. The commissioners don't have any say so over that. I will have a conversation with their comms team to let them know the concerns. But we don't manage them anymore. And so we got the information probably the same time you did. It was a very vague email that identified 3 or 4 parks that had the West Nile virus outbreak. And that was all the information they provided to us. So I will take to their comms team and have a conversation with them and their powers. But again, the Fulton County Board of Health is now a state entity. And so the county doesn't have any say so over what they do, how they run their county, how they run their department, anything like that. To second your question, there has been some talks around providing a cap as far as the taxes, school taxes for seniors over a certain age. We are currently in communications with DeKalb County that has that similar policy in place. Gwinnett County has a similar legislation. So we are in the process of having those talks to see what that would look like, whether we can do it in Fulton County. So we are looking at all avenues at this current time, but I'm one that like to just be open and transparent and just tell you what's on the floor. But those are some things that we're looking at. And so that's the reason why you will see if you watch the previous BLC meeting when it was proposed for it to be 93.72, Board of Commissioners was like, no, this is too high. Can we go down another number? But legally, we have to advertise a set number in order for us to be in guidelines with the state legislation. And so that was the reason why they chose on the 9.274. Again, this is only for us to advertise it, us to hear the concerns at the first 2 3 public hearings, and then on August 16th, there will be a recommendation either to lower it or to increase it or to keep it at what it's been advertised at this current moment. But I will take all your concerns. I will urge anybody that has availability, that has time, if you're not able to come, I will post the Zoom links for you to attend the meetings via Zoom. You can speak during the Zoom session of the meeting as well. And so I would encourage you guys to do that as well.
Thank you. And Rich, your hand is up again. Do you have another question or?
Madam Chair, I don't think he lowered it from the last question.
Well, it
I don't
dropped
think-
down on the list, so. And I don't see him on screen, so I think he walked away. Okay.
Mr. Harris, I do appreciate your comments and I thank you for them. By the way, Fulton County Health Department was the name listed on the flyer. So if it's not y'all, I would go to some effort to get my name off of it. That's all.
So it's still considered Fulton County Board of Health. They just report to the state now, but the name is still the same, but they don't report to us anymore. I don't know why they won't change it, but.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible. Okay. Anyone else here that's representing an elected official? If not, we're going to move to our consent agenda. That is the one-page agenda. It includes items that this NPU generally approves with little or no comment. We have 3 Board of Zoning adjustments applications that are on the agenda. V2314, this is 1832 Monroe Drive Northeast. It is being deferred again at the request of the applicant. The second case is V2381, 638 Park Drive. This is also being deferred at the request of the applicant. And the last application is V2385, 2535 Chantilly Drive. The Lindridge Martin Manor Organization, Neighborhood Association is recommending approval, and the recommendation on the consent agenda is to approve. There are also 3 special events on the consent agenda. Those are only 3 that are on the agenda tonight. EVEC Walk for Life, a classy event in Piedmont Park, August 26 to 2023. Is the applicant present? Yeah, okay, not present. Kaiser Permanente Run, Walk, and Roll, a Class D event. It's 6,000 participants, a recurring event in Piedmont Park Meadow, September 28th, 2023. Is Michelle here? I saw her name on the list earlier. Michelle, are you with us still?
I believe she is here. She's on the phone. Do you
Oh,
have
okay.
instructions on how to unmute?
Unmute is *6. Okay, the last one is Michelle. Michelle, are you here for?
For some reason, she's there, but it's my name. I'm not sure why that is.
Okay.
I sent her the link. Maybe that's why.
That's
But
probably-
Michelle, can you hear us?
Okay, if she's here, that's.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're here.
Hi,
Okay,
Debbie.
thank you. I just want to make sure that you're here. And the last application on the consent agenda is Walk to End Lupus Now, a Class D event, 5,000 participants. It's a recurring event in Piedmont Park, April 27th, 2024. That's next year. The recommendation is to support. Is Terry Edmonds here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so EVEC Walk for Life is not here and she'll be removed from the agenda. Let me ask my questions. Is there anyone here who wants to have an application removed from the consent agenda so that it can be discussed in their regular place on the agenda? Just call out if you'd like to have an item removed. Is there an applicant here who would like to have their application discussed at this meeting? And is there anyone here who is opposed to any of these recommendations? Okay, items can come off the consent agenda. You just have to let me know. Alrighty, we're going to remove EVEC. Is there a motion?
Move to support the consent agenda or approve the consent agenda.
Right. Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Rich. Okay, a motion's been made by Kay, seconded by Rich Sussman, to approve the consent agenda after removing EVEC Walk for Life. All those in favor, and I want to do this by hand count. If you're in favor, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function. And obviously that's only if you are in a resident of NPU-F. And we do this so everyone knows to find the raise your hand function in case we need it again.
I would like those instructions again.
Okay, Linda, the raise your hand icon is under the reactions tab. And on most computers, you'll find reactions at the bottom of your screen. Find it? Yay, Linda found it. Okay.
I did, thank you.
Okay, the number has stopped moving. I see 16 ayes. I'm going to lower the votes. I think. Oh, here we go. Is there anyone opposed to the consent agenda? I see no hands raised. By a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays, the consent agenda carries. If your application is on the consent agenda, you're free to go for the evening. Your application will not be discussed further during the meeting. You're good to go. Okay, next item is matters for voting. These are the items that have not been on the consent agenda. First group is the alcohol licenses, since we've already done the special events. First application is Terrific Package Store. Actually, there's two applications. Terrific Package Store Liquor and Terrific Package Store Beer and Wine. Jane Rawlings, our alcohol chair, is traveling, so she sent me her report. Is the applicant present for Terrific Package?
Madam Chair, I am here, Harold Buckley, with Belante Asefa, who is the applicant in this case.
Okay, great. Thanks, Harold. And can Mr. Sifa, can he show up on screen? Just to acknowledge that he is here.
He has turned his camera on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. This business is located at 1901 Cheshire Bridge Road, Northeast. It's in the Morningside Lenox Park neighborhood. There are two applications, one for beer and wine, one for liquor, as I mentioned earlier. The application dated 6/2 is for a change of ownership to operate a retail package store to sell liquor, beer, and wine for off-premise consumption. The property is zoned NC5 and currently holds an alcohol license. Operating hours are 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. There have been no complaints regarding operations at this location. Mr. Buckley or Mr. Asifa, do you want to add anything or correct any of the notes?
Madam Chair, well, first, before I make any remarks, I'd like to apologize for my disruption earlier. I was getting my audio together, and when I heard you ask if Carol was ready, I misunderstood and thought you were asking if Harold was ready. So please excuse me for that. The only thing I'd like to add is that nothing is changing at this location or with this business operation. Mr. Asefa has worked at this business for 20 years, and he has managed the store for a very, very long time. And so as a practical matter, nothing is going to change. It's just a technical change of ownership. And so we just would ask the NPU for its support of our application.
Are there any questions for the applicant or for Mr. Buckley? Okay, I see any hands raised. Is there a motion?
I move to support this application for an alcohol license.
I'll
Do we
second
need
that.
to do them as two separate votes, or can we take them together?
Well, it's two different applications, so we probably do need to do two separate.
Okay.
Do you want to do beer and wine first?
Sure.
Okay. And is there a second?
Yes, second.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion to recommend approval of the Terrific Package beer and wine application? If not, please raise your hand. Okay. Has everyone voted that wants to vote? Whoops, one person's clapping. You'll need to change that to raise your hand.
They really like us.
No. Okay, I see 17 ayes for that. I'm going to lower your hands. Oops, 18. The clapper changed. All right. Is there anyone opposed to the alcohol license application for beer and wine at Terrific Package? I see no hands raised. By a vote of 18 ayes and 0 nays, the motion carries. And then the second application is for the liquor portion of the application. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to support the application for liquor sales at Terrific Package Store.
Great, thank you, Kay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rich. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? If you're in favor, please raise your hand. Whoops, another clap your hand.
From somebody else.
I think that's actually a thumbs up. Okay, I don't see the number moving anymore. I see 17 ayes. I'm going to lower. Okay, is there anyone opposed to the recommending approval for the liquor portion of the Terrific Package? Excuse me. I don't see any nays. By a vote of 17 ayes and 0 nays, the motion carries. So both of those applications will be forwarded to the LRB as support. Thank you both.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next
Good night.
Good night. The next application is for Dirty Tea. This is at 1056 St. Charles Avenue. Is the agent present?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, Jane has provided a report. This application's at 1056 St. Charles Avenue. It's a restaurant new business in Virginia Highland. The application we received was dated May 16th for a new business to operate as a restaurant serving liquor, beer, and wine for on-premise consumption. No live entertainment is planned and is therefore exempt from distance requirements. The property is zoned NC 12 SA1 with a seating capacity of 55. The location does not have a current alcohol license. Operating hours are Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Friday to Saturday, the same hours. Does the applicant want to tell us more about the business or correct any of the information I just shared?
Yes, ma'am. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out this evening. I'm also joined with Donna Matthews. She is my hospitality consultant and also expediter. As far as the hours, Monday and Tuesday, we won't be no business hours at all. We'll be operating from Wednesday to Thursday from 11 to 7. Friday and Saturday from 11 to 8, and also on Sunday, 12 to 6.
12 to 6, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you want to tell us about your business? This is a new business.
Yes, so the Dirty Tea is in a nutshell. If anyone is familiar with afternoon tea, it's a spinoff of afternoon tea, which was started in the 1800s. So it's basically light bites, charcuterie boards, tea, coffee, champagne, which is why we're here trying to establish the liquor license and stuff. Just with a spin on it.
Okay. Virginia Highland, do you have a recommendation?
Leah is still not here. As I told you, she had another meeting tonight.
But I am. Yeah. And I wonder if you could start with Jane's, you said you're representing Jane here. If you could start with Jane's report on this.
I did, Jack. She did have a recommendation.
Okay.
Her recommendation was approval conditioned on NPU-F and the applicant receiving written notification of planning's recognized parking requirement for the application and site, and that it satisfies the requirements with a signed lease agreement prior to obtaining the CO.
And could you be more specific about her recommendation on the parking requirements?
Well, that was her recommendation, that as we have asked many applicants to provide proof that the parking is addressed.
Yes, but I don't want to be out of turn here. I was surprised because we had a discussion about this at the end with Jane, and I think it's directly relevant. She is the alcohol reference.
I read what I've got.
I'm sorry?
I read what I've got.
Okay, well, I'm going to read the letter she wrote to, I'd like to enter into the discussion, the letter that she shared with Lieutenant Cotter at the alcohol.
Excuse me, Ms. Skabinski.
Yes.
If we have, my name is Donna Matthews. How are you? Pleased to meet you guys. I'm working with Eric Norwood. We have satisfied the parking requirements per, we talked with Leah this morning, the neighborhood president. We have submitted everything in writing to them from our landlord.
Madam Chair, I believe I have the floor. May I finish my statement, please?
Yeah, Donna, thank you for joining us tonight. I want Jack to finish his thought.
Sure.
Jane wrote a letter to us yesterday dated July 16th. Virginia Highland didn't fully agree with it, but before I get to what what we wrote, I think it's perfectly relevant to start off with the alcohol license and permit chairs for NPU-F's position. And I'm going to move on here to say that the applicant states, her third paragraph, that 30 spaces are required and that they have 30 on site. Historically, alcohol licenses are required to have 1 space per 100 square foot of business. This location has 1,944 square feet per the app, which would lead to 19 spaces. Per zoning, and she references the section that we and Virginia Holland, the planning committee, took to the board, which was a different one. We read zoning code section 1632L 002 point, which is the NC parking requirements. And we concluded, and we told Mr. Norwood this when we spoke to him the second time, according to our reading, that 4, not 19 spaces, would be required. She asked Lieutenant Cotter at the police department to clarify which of these 2 code sections apply. In Virginia Holland, we have believed that the NC, the changes to the NC in our districts override the others, and Chip is on the line and he can explain how we got to 4. But Jane notes, presumably the applicant discussed this with LNP at the time of the submission, but I would like clarity prior to the vote. Is the applicant required to have 30, 19, or 4? It would be helpful to have this information. Indeed, it would. Virginia Holland believes that the proper number is 4, the planning committee did. However, we note that Ms. Rawlings believes it is 19, and the applicant said it was 30. I think that was just a clerical error, and he can clarify that if he likes. But I think this would be a great way to start this discussion. Is it 30? Is it 19? Or is it 4? And depending on which one we decide it is, where and how are they being provided by the applicant? And I'll be glad to give you the planning committee's recommendation, which was accepted conditionally during the board meeting, with a series of conditions that have not been yet met, would be our argument, but that the applicant was attempting to meet and has made some progress on, but hasn't yet met. So I'd be glad to yield back to you, Madam Chair, to find out the question, the most relevant question. Is it 30? Is it 19? Or is it 4? Until we know that, I don't think we can have much of a discussion. And I'd be glad to present the case for 4 at the proper time, but perhaps the applicant would like to explain why he thought it was 30. We know why Ms. Rawlings thinks it's 19.
So, okay, I'm going to go back to either Mr. Norwood or to Donna. How many parking spaces do you believe that is required?
Thank you. Sorry, Debbie, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So we've been able to satisfy, so we have the 4 parking spaces. We've talked to Leah this morning, the neighborhood president. We were going back and forth and we submitted the letter that she required for us to submit to show that we have 4 parking spaces, and we have that. In addition to that, however, we have secured 30 parking spaces at a church. We did understand that it was outside of the Atkins Park district, which started some of the dialogue about the parking in the first place. So we went back to our landlord and we got the 4 spaces per the requirement, per the code, and we've submitted that letter to Leah this afternoon, early this afternoon. So it was, according to the law, according to the code, we're required to have 4 spaces. In addition to that, however, we have 30 additional spaces in the church across the street from the shop.
Okay, so who confirmed that only 4 were needed?
Leah did.
Well,
And Jack did. Jack and I have been talking for about a few weeks now. So
okay.
Jack had clarified that we needed 4 spaces per the alcohol license code. So we did work with Gilhern and our landlord to get the 4 spaces per Jack's interpretation of the law. But in addition to that as well, prior to that, we had 30 spaces as well.
Right, well, Jack is not the city of Atlanta, so was there anyone from the city of Atlanta that told you how many parking spaces were required?
Yes. I talked to Sergeant Thompson as well,
And Sergeant Thompson told you what?
that we had to pass our building inspection that requires us to get 4 spaces for that liquor license.
Okay, and have you passed your building inspection?
It's still pending. We have to, it's still pending,
Okay,
but we have 34 spaces, for within the said district.
okay, and you said Leah has the letter that from the landlord regarding the 4 spaces. Do you have a lease with the church for the 30 spaces?
Yes, we do. I can forward both of them to both of you guys I can forward both of it to both you guys. I have your email address and I have Leah's email address. I can forward it to all 3 and Jack's email address. So I can forward both the lease with the church and the letter from the landlord to all 3 of you guys.
Okay, and the 4 spaces, do you know who in the city is reviewing will be responsible for your building inspection?
Not yet. Historically, I've scheduled building inspections with Susan Jones, and she assigns the building inspector to us. But we have some things with, we still have a few things with the plumbing that we need to complete. So the building inspection is still pending.
Okay, and the parking is part of the building inspection?
That's what I've learned, yes.
Okay, I thought someone else did that. So I'm asking these questions because I really don't know.
No problem. We'd be happy to continue to clarify them.
Okay. All right. Are you aware that in the NC 12 subarea 1 district that an SAP is required to use shared spaces within the Atkins Park NPU-NC district? Do you know what a special administrative permit? It's a very simple document to complete.
Sure.
It's a requirement of the zoning district. Are you aware of that?
I'm made aware now.
Okay.
Actually, I believe that was in the code we sent to you last week. And that's the part, Madam Chair, that hasn't been addressed at all. And I do have some comments. We did see the permit. They've made some progress with the landlord, and which was our recommended solution. But the progress does not specify. The comments made in the code are very specific and not hard to fill. They specifically say you need the exact spaces identified, the exact hours and exact days. And by the way, they may be used because they're shared parking. Those spaces do qualify to meet other needs at times other than the lessee, in this case, the Dirty T, is using. So their agreement we too have a copy of their agreement, and it does not specify that. It says on the days when they are open, and it needs to specify it. It's easily fixable. It's just not fixed now.
Yeah, the reason why I'm mentioning it and that you should really get that done now is that I suspect when it comes time for who's ever going to approve your building permit and your CO, they are going to ask you about that. So if you've already got it in process, that'll move things along a little faster.
We have it.
Actually, what you have on the agreement that you submitted to Leah, which she promptly forwarded it to us.
Thank you.
Has the deficiencies that I just indicated, and you can compare them. I last week twice sent you the code, and it's exactly in there. There's nothing else. We're not inventing anything. It's exactly what's listed in the specific code lines. If it's not there, it's not needed. But if it is there, it is. And so this could be repaired with a new note, and then signage is required. And the signage needs to be on the spots. Again, not a difficult requirement to fulfill. Many people have done it over the years. So this is a good suggestion, and I will be glad to explain to the body, or Mr. Campus and Mr. Bullock are on the line and can explain to the body how and why we interpreted the code the way we did. We are keenly aware of how the pressures on adjacent residential areas can manifest if the parking is not provided. But I want to point out very clearly for the record, I'm happy if these or any other agents want to have their parking somewhere else, anywhere. They could have it at Ponce City Market. They can have it at Truist Park. It does not count for the calculation of the legal parking requirement, and we can't ignore that. And when citizens come to us to complain about absence of residential parking on St. Charles and Greenwood, which are RG substantially and have far more residential units through the determination of history, we didn't ask for it, than they do spaces, then, and there are ways to measure that, and we need a reply to them to show them that we at least gave them the opportunity to comment. The special exception that you're talking about is a public requirement that has to spend at least 21 days with the NP. It needs to reach the NPU 21 days before it's considered. And we need to advertise it and let folks know. I do not know if there will be tons of comments or zero comments or a few comments. And we're prepared to explain our logic to any unhappy adjacent residents, and because we've acted within the law. What we're asking that you do is you act very carefully and very strictly within the law. As you know, sir, when we called you at various times, you were pretty happy to hear that you didn't need 30 spaces. You liked our math. You liked 4 was a lot better. We didn't do that to please you, although we're glad it pleased you. We did it because that's what we understand the code to say. We've asked Mr. Fortner, our consultant, and a consultant to several neighborhoods here, who wrote some of that code, to review it. And we're going to try very, very hard to shed some light, some sunshine on this issue about who reviews it, at what stage, and what the requirements are. And we're not doing that to be hard on this. We've lightened this applicant's burden substantially. But what the board said the other night was that you comply with the tenets of the code, not that you just get a letter and send it to Leah, but that all the tenets of the code that we furnished you and that Debbie cites and that Jane cites be complied with. And we think that's doable, but it has not been done yet. And I am unwilling to support this motion in its current form because it has not been done yet.
Okay. Let me clarify. There is no motion on the floor yet. I think what I heard Donna say, Donna, please confirm, or Mr. Norwood, I see your hand raised, that you understand that an SAP is going to be required. I think it's going to be required just to get your CO. So getting it done quickly will help. We usually don't take 21 days on SAPs, so don't let that scare you. Mr. Norwood, do you have any comments?
Yes, ma'am. On the plumbing has passed, so all we're doing waiting for inspection dates.
Okay.
So we're good.
Yeah, that's usually not an NPU issue. We're happy to hear that you're moving forward. We just want you to get over this hump with the parking issue. Let me ask.
My
Go ahead.
apologies, Debbie. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Cool. I was just going to ask if anyone has any questions about your operating plans or about your business. Anyone have any questions? John Wolfinger? Hey, John.
One is, as to your operating hours, isn't closing at either 7 or 8 in the evening awfully early for a restaurant?
Say that
It's
one more
a
time.
high
Sorry,
key
I couldn't hear you.
concept.
Go ahead, Donna. Go ahead. That's fine. Go ahead, Donna.
Sorry, John. It's a high tea concept. It's not a restaurant as you see it. It's a high tea concept, right? It's you make reservations between the hours of 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then on Sunday from 12 to 6, but it's a high tea concept. It's like a uppity, cucumber sandwiches, lady fingers, macaroons type concept. We actually have a contract with Alon's Bakery. We're getting like fresh pastries from them. They don't have any frozen pastries. They're very particular about where they get their very, 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 very curated menu. It's not and they just want to be able to serve champagne and an espresso martini. So it's a very limited cocktail menu. It's not a bar, but it's a high tea concept. It's a concept something that's similar that the Ritz-Carlton does, but it's not a restaurant per se as you would define it. But we are serving food, we are serving tea, we are serving coffee. But again, to answer your question, like the hours are still because that's what high tea hours are.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Will the dress code require a hat and gloves?
I don't know if you guys have seen the Instagram account for Miss Rita, but the photo shoot that they did is just absolutely fabulous. She is in not the hat per se, but the little what is that called? The smaller, and the gloves, and she's just absolutely fabulous. So, I'm sure it's beautiful in there. You're gonna love it.
Great, thank you.
So basically, to add on to what Donna was saying, when we have the reservations, it is business casual, but if you want to dress up with your gloves and your hats, and we're welcome to it. Everybody's welcome to do it.
Yeah, yes, if we could, this is great. Everybody thought this was a great concept. Closing at 7, that's a novel and attractive feature. I just want to read again, because there seems to be, even now, some uncertainty. An applicant seeking an SAP for off-site parking or approval of a shared parking shall submit the following information. It is not optional. A 2-scale map indicating the location of the places. That is not in evidence yet. The hours of business operation. You've stated them very clearly, sir, and I appreciate it, but it's got to be on the sign as you're about to see. Written consent, you have that from the property owner, and a lease shall be provided to the Bureau of Buildings prior to the issuance. Donna has all this. We've sent it to her at least 2 times, so it's right there in writing. I'm not making any of it up at all. And that the paragraph below that we use, and the Chip is here and Mark, and we worked very hard to convince the board that this was going to be okay if these requirements were followed. So that's what we need to do. And if we do that, we are all protected because we have all followed the law. And if we do not, we are not. And so I would like to suggest that this application be held pending the submission of the information. That's my motion. Pending the submission of the information contained in the appropriate section that we have been reading from, which is 16-32L002. And I move that we hold this pending the arrival of that. And I'm hoping that it'll be okay with Mr. Norwood. If he does it, I would be happy to reconsider it when the information is in here. That's what we've been asking for from the get-go.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second?
Good.
Kay first, then Rich. Rich, I'm really sorry. Your hand is the same color as the background, so I don't see it. But Kay had her hand up first. Okay. Unmute, Kay.
So a couple of things. What we have before us is an alcohol license application. And all of the things we're talking about are contained in the zoning code. They can't get their certificate of occupancy unless they satisfy those zoning things, but that does not prevent them from getting their alcohol license. We also all know when we go before the LRB is not going to hold up an alcohol license based on zoning matters. So I think we kind of have the cart before the horse on this one.
Okay, so you are not seconding. Is there anyone that is
I am not.
seconding the motion? Is there anyone that's going to second the motion?
I guess the other thing I would say is it was my understanding that we can't defer an alcohol license application, only the applicant can.
That is also my understanding. Is there anyone that wants to second the application? Rich, I know you've been waving your hand. Is that to second?
Yes. See what happens.
Okay, so you're seconding the motion. Is there any discussion, any other discussion on this?
Madam Chair, I'd like
Jack?
to talk to Ms. Stevenson's points. I believe she is largely accurate in her statement. That doesn't change the obligation of this group. Our decision is to make a decision on whether or not this applicant has met the various requirements of the code. What the LRB does, a group that is a term seldom expressed without disdain of the highest order in this and many other NPUs, is up to the LRB. What we do is to meet our requirements to our co-citizens, to see that they have they act in a way that's consistent with the local codes, and that they get notified in proper fashion of all of their requirements that the code sections contain. And that's what I'm asking to do. We have gone to considerable trouble to try to facilitate this location, enjoying our conversations with Mr. Norwood in various countries and various times, and he's been very helpful. They have made progress. They haven't complied with the code and all of its complexity. And I am unwilling, the proper thing to do is to comply. It's not that difficult. But when you do things at the very, very, very last second, today, after 9 days after it was taken up at Virginia Highland and 2 weeks after we met with it, then mistakes and shortcomings appear. So we're not sabotaging anything. We're asking that it be done right. The LRB may approve it. That's their burden and cross to bear. We'll argue the proper points about how the administrative points about the parking ought to be held. That's what the neighborhood and the NPU's job is. And we can do that. And if they won't, I'm hoping they'll defer. But if they don't want to defer, then I will amend my motion appropriately to oppose. But I'm hoping they'll just agree to defer, because we're trying to help them move forward here. And we'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, I got it. So let me ask Donna and Eric if you would agree to defer your application.
We would not, we would like to move forward. We would like to ask the board to make a decision and make a vote, please.
Okay. Okay. Jack, does that change the nature of your motion?
Not a bit. Oh, it does. I'm sorry. I'll withdraw my previous motion and make a motion that we oppose this pending the arrival of a complete, thorough, and legal application. Thank you, Debbie. That's my new motion.
Okay, I'm taking notes here, so give me a sec. Is there a second to the motion to oppose the application until the complete application is in place?
Yes,
Rich, are you seconding?
Rich.
Okay. I'll never be able to read my notes. Okay. Jack. And Rich. All right. This is where we are. There is a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded to oppose the Dirty T application pending the completion of the completion of the full application. Is there any other comments before making a vote? I haven't asked for the vote. Okay, there's two hands.
Madam Chair,
Brandon, yes, who are you? I'm sorry.
hi.
can't
Yeah,
see
I
right
don't
now, but
represent
you're doing.
anyone. I don't represent anyone, but point of order. It's Mr. White's allegation that it's not a full application. I don't think that's, that if that's the vote, correct?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again?
What is the nature of the vote? Could you please point of clarification?
Sure. The motion is to oppose the Dirty Tea application pending the completion of the full alcohol application as Mr. White described it.
Special exception.
Well, but I think that's the point, right? Is that Mr. White has a position on this that may or may not be correct.
Well, that's very true. So
Okay.
if you're not in favor of the motion to oppose, then please vote nay on the vote. If you support the opposition, then you would vote aye.
Madam Chair, may I ask the applicant if he has completed the special exception application?
I think it's clear, Jack, that they haven't.
Well, it's not clear to Mr. I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce the last name, but it's not clear to that gentleman. Thanks.
Okay. Rich, your hand is still up. Did you want to? Do you have any comments? Okay. I don't see any of the other hands raised. So we're going to try taking a vote. If you're in favor of the motion to oppose, please vote aye. If you're, and we'll raise your hands voting aye first time around, if you're in favor. Okay. We're not taking nay votes. Yes, there's one person that's voted with an X. I didn't even know that icon was still there. Okay, is there anyone else that wants to vote aye? I see 6 ayes. I'm going to drop the hands. If you're opposed to the motion to oppose, if you don't want to oppose the application, please vote aye. Please raise your hand. Even I'm confused right now. So if you're confused, please speak up. Has everyone voted that cares to vote?
Debbie, I counted 7 on the vote to support the motion or to approve the motion.
I only got 6.
There were 7 up. I think maybe it was Chip that voted late, was the last one to go up.
Okay, we'll take a revote. Has everyone voted that cares to vote? Okay. I see 7 nays. And since Kay got a
Debbie, you're muted.
good grief. Okay, we're going to try. We're going to do a recount on the ayes since Kay got a different count. If you're in favor of the motion to oppose the application, please raise your hand.
Joanne, you voted twice. Thank you.
Let me take a quick look at the, make sure there's. Wait, do you see 7?
I see 7.
Okay. So by a vote of 7 ayes and 7 nays, the motion does not carry. Is there a new motion?
I make a motion to support this application.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's Brandon. Okay. Brandon, I'm sorry, I don't know you. What neighborhood are you from?
Morningside.
Okay, great,
East
thank you.
Morningside.
Just checking.
Mhm.
Okay, a motion's been made to support the application. All those in favor, please raise your hand to support the application. Has everyone voted that cares to vote? I see 7 ayes. It's going to be the same vote. Okay. All right, I'm going to lower your hands. For those that are opposed to the motion to support the application, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 7 nays.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we do not have to take action. I mean, we have this. Sorry. They'll be fine. It's
Jack,
fine.
let me at least
Okay.
close the vote. By a vote of 7 ayes and 7 nays, the motion does not carry. The given that we are at a stalemate, the recommendation of the NPU-F will be no recommendation. And I will make a comment that the NPU was mixed right down the middle. Donna, if you
Madam,
haven't.
I'm going to add the comment that the local neighborhood is willing to support when things are improved. So that's pretty relevant, I would think, to those downtown.
Yes, the local neighborhood can send a letter of support to the LRB before their application gets to the board. Donna, if you have any problems with the SAP, let us know. We'll help you through it.
Thank you,
for
Debbie.
here tonight. I hope you have a very successful business.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye, Mr. Norwood. Goodbye, Ms. Matthews.
Okay. We have one alcohol license application for review and comment. This is Indico Atlanta. It is at 725 Ponce de Leon. It's a new restaurant in NPU-N. And it is on our agenda because it's within 300 feet of NPU-F. Does anyone have any comments or concerns? I don't see or hear anyone. I will report no comments. Okay. We're going to skip down to the variance applications. We have had a number on the consent agenda. So the first one would be V23-53-885 Highland Terrace, northeast. The applicant seeks a variance to reduce the west side yard setback from 7 feet to 0.5 feet. Is the applicant present? 885 Highland Terrace. Is the applicant present? Jack, do you know who would be here to represent the?
Yes, Debbie, this is the application that we spoke about earlier, that the Virginia Highland Board recommended against. The applicant was seeking the right to have his side yard setback.
Right, I know the application. Who is the person representing would be here that would represent the application?
Jamila Brown was the applicant, and I do not see her on the list. Tell you what, if you want to hold it, I'll try to ring her up. She didn't appear at the BHCA meeting, but she also knew that we were going to recommend against it, not because but because the city's own position is that 12 inches is too close to the setback. Let me try her while we move on, and I'll see if I can get a reply from her.
And we'll skip to the next application, which is B2380, 1386 Wayne Avenue. The applicant seeks a variance to 1, reduce the front yard from 35 feet to 20 feet, and 2, reduce the northern side yard from 7 feet to 3.5 feet for construction of a single family dwelling. Is the applicant present?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't see your name.
My name is Brian Robinson with Summit Design Build.
Great, thank you, Brian. Okay. Do you want to give us a short explanation of what your plans are and why you need the variance?
Yeah, so we're looking to build in the existing footprint of the existing home, and the side setback is currently that of 3.5 feet instead of 7 feet, which is required. And the front setback we're requesting is 25 feet instead of the 35 feet. And the home that is currently there is in that setback. So we're just going to build the existing home, or a new home in the existing footprint. And that's what we're requesting the variance for.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, because that's not what my notes say. You want to reduce the front yard setback from 35 feet to 25 feet?
Yes, ma'am. The original application said 20 feet. We've modified that to 25 feet. We don't need the full 25 feet because we're 20 feet because we are building within the existing footprint.
Okay, and this northern side yard setback, 7 feet to what?
3.5 feet.
3.5 feet, okay. Okay, Morningside. Do you have a report?
Yes, we do. Sorry, I have a new computer here, so hold on one second. Let me turn my video on. So yes, we do. We met in a special meeting online and a second site visit, and we did recommend approval on this application. According to the site plan that was submitted with the application. So
the
I'm not sure the date on that.
So the application does request to 20 feet, but we will only be encroaching into the 25 foot because we're staying within the original footprint. So the application does state 20 feet.
Okay, no, I understand that now. Was a new referral certificate provided you?
Not for me, no, ma'am.
Okay, that's all right. And the site plan, does that show 25 feet?
Yes, ma'am. It shows 26 foot 0.52, as well as the arborist plan shows 26.5. So we have a 1/4 inch discrepancy between the two.
Okay, and Rebecca, you're saying that you support it according to the new site plan. So does that have a date?
Yes, I was trying to pull it up. Sorry, I can't find it. It's on my new computer because everything just died. I've had to replace my computer, but I have it saved here.
Been there.
Peter, you're on. Do you have the actual date on that plan?
5/10 of 23.
10/23. Okay.
10/23 or 5/10?
May 10th of 2023.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, and also just to bring this up to everyone, the neighbors do have an agreement with the builder that if the city will approve the removal of a tree behind their house, they will have that tree removed prior to the build because it's most likely going to be killed at some point to where it's going to need to be removed. So that just to let you all know this is part of the agreement of the neighbors. It's not part of this variance. It's just something to be aware of.
Okay, okay. Are there any questions to the applicant or Morningside regarding this Holly Sassnet? Go ahead.
Thanks, Debbie. Just some points of clarification. Hi, Brian. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Hey, so, and Debbie, you just asked about the date on the site plan. There was a new drawing that was put forth July 10th of this year. So just so you know, I don't know if that's relevant for what you were asking for.
Well, I just
I can confirm that. I can confirm that. I'm looking right now in my emails. I can't find it on my computer. So yeah, give me 1 second. I'll confirm that.
Okay, I just want to have the right.
That's correct. The arborist plan is July 10th of 23.
Yes.
And
that's the arborist plan, yes.
And on this plan that was submitted or dated on July 10th, attached are these DDH, the dead, dying and hazardous tree removals for behind the house. And those permits are expired, which Brian and I discussed at the site visit. But just so the NPU knows that he will have that, even though they're attached to this current drawing, they are no longer valid. So he will need to start that process again. And also some of the 3 trees that he showed us at the site visit that were marked with pink tape appeared to not be necessarily, all 3 of them were not necessarily the same trees as what was on this permit, you know, as far as species and DBH size. So I want to make sure that whichever trees, if this permit is reinstated, that the correct trees get marked. And the NPU needs to understand that, like Rebecca said, that the tree agreement with Peter it's a boundary tree between the 2 properties. While they have this agreement, the city will still have to rule on that. And my last question here is, for this variance for the side setback, there was mention, Rebecca, did you say that it only applies to the limits of disturbance? Or is it the entire setback?
It would limit the setback. It would be limited to the site plan. So that would mean that the setback could not be extended across the entire front of the property or side of the property from that, whatever is on that plan.
Is that just typical for zoning, that a variance is only?
I think Jack can explain that better than I can explain that. I had to explain it to me earlier today. So Jack, are you on the line right now?
Because I just want to make sure that that entire side setback is not being reduced.
Oh no, it would not be. It wouldn't be reduced. It would stay what it is currently. I mean, it currently has. They already have that setback. It's the same footprint of the house that's there now. The only exception is that porch in the front, which is, I don't know how many feet that is out, but.
I'm speaking of the variance application, and the application does not state that this variance request to limit the size of setback. It does not state that it's limited to the point of disturbance. And that's what I just want to.
No, that's what it will be, limited to the site plan, the current site plan.
That's what I just want to
Yeah, the
So
trick with that is that the city can come back and if, for example, they want to extend that line along the setback, the city will approve it without coming back to the NPU. It'll just be done. So I'm not sure that we can control it. We could request it, but I don't think we can control it.
So what,
So, and what this does is it will take the application, I guess, off of the consent agenda, because it will not be approved just based on the setback. It will be approved based on recommended approval based on the site plans setback, which is only that deck.
but so I get
In
my
one area.
Zach Spy just missed twice in a row with that four-seam fastball.
Now we know what Jack's doing.
Jack, or, you know, I guess it's just general clarification for me, and I apologize that I'm having to ask this general question, but as far as whether or not the variance once granted, if it applies again to just this particular point of disturbance, or is it the entire setback?
My understanding is that the city can change the city will approve an extension of that line along the house, along the setback line, all the way through. Chip, am I correct?
Unless we specify it's per the site plan only for what's in that plan.
That may last for 6 months, but yeah.
Right, yeah, right.
Rebecca, this
Yes.
is Peter.
Yes.
If
okay.
we, if you can only recommend that
Right,
it's
so,
following.
yeah, of course,
I need to go to the BZA and actually stipulate that it's that site plan so that they do not expand the house later on.
Well, because of this saying it's only based on the site plan, it will be taken off the consent agenda. And yes, we will have to go to the BZA meeting.
Okay, and this is where it will actually occur, is at the BZA meeting. You're just the recommendation.
Correct.
Okay.
Peter, I raised the point just so that the NPU just is mindful of what's involved, and also
I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
And Jack can explain this way better than I can. He's busy, I guess, but
Chip's got his hand up. Why don't we ask
Chip can explain it as well. Joe, is that you, Jack? Okay.
That was
Yeah, let me try and illuminate this a little bit more. If the process works the way it's supposed to and it's conditioned on the site plan, our experience professionally has been that if the owner later decides to change the footprint and make the nonconformity that was previously approved bigger by, say, making the footprint longer, to address Holly's question, they'll tell the applicant, as we've seen in practice, you can have your choice of changing it back to what got approved, or you can start the process over and apply for another variance because you changed the site plan. That's the ideal situation. Now, the worst case, which we have seen happen for very unique use cases, is say on Highland View years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago, the homeowner decided to build a new house in lieu of expanding the existing house. And they used the setbacks as they were stated, and that worst case that Holly just described actually got carried out. But that's a unique situation, unique at that time, reviewers and whatever that chose to do it that way. But if the system follows the way that it normally follows, which is it's conditioned on the site plan, that's the footprint that got approved. So if it gets changed, it should have to go back through the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Chip. Peter, did you have any additional comments you wanted to make?
No, that's the biggest thing right now, is to make sure that does not expand further into the setback variance, because this variance allows the whole setback to be 3.5 feet. So absolutely has to be conditioned on that footprint of the house. If you put it in your notes as a recommendation for that, and then I'll follow up and we'll go to the BZA and make sure that they have it footprint condition
Got it.
for the variance.
Okay, and thank you, Peter. Jack?
Yeah, actually, Peter, I think Rebecca got it and Chip both got it substantially right. If this is conditioned on the exact site plan, which I think Brian was perfectly comfortable with in the last time we were all together, then that will be the condition. It will be, as Rebecca and Chip said, and if there's anybody likely to pay attention to their neighbors, and I think it's these three neighbors that are in a row here, they paid a lot of attention to each other recently. So I think I'm optimistic that this will get built the way it is. And by the way, the last two ones this neighborhood has sent up with a condition, one from Mark Arnold in the spring, one from Pam Bullock last month, were treated exactly as they should have been procedurally and were adopted upon a site plan dated. And so I think this is going to work just fine, as all the parties have labored so hard to get to. And I don't think any extraordinary effort's going to be required. I think Rebecca's got it right. Just keep.
All righty. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve based on the condition of this, according to the site plan, setbacks in the site plan.
Dated what?
Dated, what was that date again? Sorry.
510 is the site plan, and the tree arborist plan is.
Oh, no, I think it's, Brian, I think it's dated 7/10.
710 is the arborist and 510 is the site plan.
Right, that's correct, yes.
And I'll second that.
Did you also, Rebecca, add in your notes that for conditions that he does have to reapply as the for those DDH permits?
I don't think that we will have to re-trigger that. I mean, they would have to. They would have to
say you do need to know.
The arborist would. I mean, I don't know.
It's not a condition. That's a requirement of the building department. It'll be okay. It's condition.
Okay, can I have the meeting back? The motion is to recommend approval conditioned on the site plan dated 5/10/23. Should it also be conditioned on the arborist plan dated 7/10/23? I need some direction.
Yeah,
I
believe.
think you guys should go on 710 arborist plan, because that's the one that clarifies.
Yes, we are going on that plan, Debbie. Yes, that's correct. The 710 plan for the arborist.
So
they will have to get the arborist will have to recertify, I guess, the removal of the DDH trees within the building plan.
Right, I get that. But for the motion, should there be two plans noted?
No. Yeah, there's a 510 building plan and a 710 site plan.
Okay, so I'm going to include those. I'll include both.
Yes.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the floor regarding this application? Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Okay, I don't see any. So I'm assuming we're ready to vote. The motion is to recommend approval of V2380 at 1386 Wayne Avenue, conditioned on a site plan dated 5/10/23 and arborist plan dated 7/10/23.
Correct.
All of those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Yes, the final draft was 7/10.
Has everyone voted that cares to vote? I see 11 ayes. Let me drop the hands down. Is there anyone opposed to the motion to recommend approval with conditions? Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. By a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays, the motion carries. Thank you. I know y'all are in this application, and I think we're there. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brian. Glad you're here. Okay, V2353. Is Jamila going to join us? Jack? V2353, 885 Highland Terrace, is the applicant going to be present? Is she present? Is anyone out there? I hear crickets.
This is Lawrence, Kansas. Is anyone out there?
I move that we recommend rejection of this application, which is for a 12-inch setback on the east side yard. That was the VHCA motion, and the applicant knew we were going to take it and knew that this meeting was to be held tonight, and she was going to come and argue for it. She expected defeat here, and she's can or will or will not show up at the BZA. I do not know.
Okay, I don't think we've ever taken a stand on any application that has, where the applicant hasn't been present.
Defer.
And Jack, the referral certificate that is on the agenda is 0.5 feet, which is only 6 inches.
Ah, good point. Well, fine. Whatever it is, we recommend rejection.
Okay, does anyone else have a point of view on this? Jack has made a motion to.
It doesn't really hurt us to defer, does it?
No.
It just clogs the agenda. Why don't we let it go on to the BZA, and if the applicant wants to show up, she's going to be arguing with the BZA and the planning department. They're the ones that are opposed to this.
Well, however, in other instances, when the applicant hasn't showed up, we have deferred. They're not here to make an argument one way or the other. On special events, we've done this, and on other occasions where the applicant does not show up, they defer. Whether they clog the agenda or not, I think you still have to give the applicant an opportunity to come. If they don't come next month, they don't come next month. They still get to be put on the agenda.
I'm giving them their opportunity, Rich. They can go downtown and argue.
Well, they can go downtown to argue, and we can report that they weren't at the NPU meeting. The BZA can say you need to go back to your neighborhood.
Okay.
And or they can make an opinion on it. I'm guessing, just as you are, that the BZA is not going to approve 0.5 feet. But I didn't hear a second to Jack's motion. Is there an alternate motion?
Motion to defer.
I'll second that.
Okay. Kay and Rich. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of deferring, please raise your hand. I see 7 ayes. Let me drop your. Clear the feedback. All those opposed to the motion to defer, please raise your hand. Has everyone voted that wants to vote? I see 1 nay. So by a vote of 7 ayes and 1 nay, the motion to defer carries. And I will report to the BZA that she wasn't present, but the neighborhood recommendation was to oppose so that they have that on the record. And that we're giving her an opportunity to come to the meeting. Okay, that is it for the BZA applications. Doug Young, are you still with us? You've been awfully quiet. And do you have a planner's report?
I am still here. Good evening, everybody. Doug Young, Director of the Office of Design, but I'm here tonight as your NPU-F planner. I do have a couple of announcements. Let me bring up my notes here. Just a minute. Let's see. All righty. So a couple things to talk about today. As you might know, the Zoning 2.A revisions project team had its last workshop in April this year. So they're going to be working on the analysis of that, and there'll be more information about what's next in that process coming this fall. Ag Atlanta, which is Atlanta's Urban Agricultural Advocacy and Education Office, is hosting a tour of Metro Atlanta farms and gardens on July 22nd, so coming up real quick. And they're also having their annual Ag Land Eats Food Festival on August 21st, so about a month from now. These events are a perfect opportunity to interact with local chefs and local growers. There'll be a link I'll put in the chat with more information how to get to those events. Then every first Thursday, the Department of City Planning is visiting neighborhoods in the city for our Corner Conversations series. This month for July, we were at the Broad Street Boardwalk downtown, but for the first Thursday in August, we will be in the Summerhill neighborhood. Again, in the links, you'll find more details about that. And then we also have a slate of NPU University summer sessions. This month's sessions included election integrity, civic responsibility, and engagement for youth adults, Atlanta Community Engagement Playbook. Then in August, we have a session on Atlanta City Design, the City of Atlanta's overall vision document. There'll be chats. There'll be links. There'll be a link in the chat where you can get more information about all these activities. And that is my presentation. Any questions for me about that or other Garden City planning items?
Is the Atlanta City Design Workshop, is that an NPU University?
It is. It's one of the offerings in August.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yep. Let me put that in the chat, that link before we close out here.
Any questions for Doug? I don't see any. I think we're all fading fast. Neighborhood and committee reports. Well, Doug puts that on the in the chat. Lindridge Martin Manor, do you have a report?
Yes, we'll have our quarterly board meeting by Zoom on August the 3rd.
So not meeting in person.
No, it won't, I don't believe it's in person. Most likely be on Zoom. I will notify you, Debbie, when I get some clarification. And you will be invited.
Oh, well, thank you. Piedmont Heights. Anyone here from Piedmont Heights? Bill was here earlier, I know. Morningside Lenox Park. Anything going on there? You want to share? Okay, no report there. Virginia Highland?
Well, if nothing else, come over and enjoy the absence of the trailers at the former Enman School site. There's a great deal of grading left to be done, but for those of us who have remembered the school board's promise that they would be gone in 2013, we say a decade better later than is better than never. So we're thrilled.
I agree. It's nice to see open space again. Edmund Park. Is anyone here from Edmund Park? Peter Frawley, your hand is still raised. Is that left over from before?
It's actually not left over. I've noticed a discrepancy in what we've just approved.
3 last night has a 248 average.
The 510 plan shows 26 feet into the front setback, not
20-foot setback.
shows the 20-foot setback. It conflicts with the arborist plan. I just pulled it up.
We never got.
Okay,
Well, how do we handle something like that?
okay, I think you need to go back to Brian and Rebecca and work that out. And just let me know that how you worked it out. My email address is chair@NPU-F Atlanta.
.org.
Okay,
Yeah, and
thank you.
I'll make sure that they know that we had a little discrepancy. Okay, back to the committee reports. Emory CDC area, Druid Hills. Anybody here? Is there a parks, tree and environment?
Yes.
Or
So again, just noting the occurrence of the West Nile virus. And we just hope that Fulton County folks will get back to us and give us a little bit more clarification of what's going on, their plans. Secondly, I want to report that the Great Southeastern Pollinator Census will take place on August 18th and 19th, gsepc.org. Traditionally, University of Georgia Extension has been sponsoring the pollinator census throughout the state of Georgia. This time, the state of North Carolina has joined with us, with the state of Georgia, to measure the health of our pollinators throughout the states. And want to remind everybody that South Fork Conservancy's Creek Rising is will be occurring on September 14th between 5 and 7:30 at Zona Light Park. Just go on to the South Fork Conservancy website.org to get tickets, buy raffle tickets, and join.
Rich, have you checked under the Cheshire Bridge to see if they've done anything with that space that was committed
That
to?
space, the outdoor out front donated that space to the Southern Conservation Trust.
Right.
In Fayetteville, nothing has happened yet. I think, I'm not sure if the actual title has transferred over to them, but there hasn't been any plantings there yet. I'm not really sure how that's being done, but it's something that will be done in the future.
Yeah,
But they did get rid of
weather
that-
to cool?
that billboard's gone.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was a good thing. Okay. Holly, did you have anything to add to the parks report?
Thanks, Debbie. I'm good. I think Rich covered it. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about the West Nile virus and, you know, as Rich said, most likely this virus has been amongst us for a long time, you know, but I think it's good for us to take precautions, certainly, when we're out in our parks.
I agree. Okay, thank you. Is there an education report? I don't know that Leah's joined us, doesn't look like it. Communications, Andrew Mackler. Kay is.
Andrew's not here. I think Scott and I have worked out the issues for Google, and I can talk with you about that offline. And that's really the only thing we had going on.
Okay. Great. Okay, and do you have a public safety report?
I do, just a couple of quick things. We had our State of the Zone meeting with Zone 6 last week with Major Webster, and a few things of interest. We talked to her about, we continually talk about how APD is understaffed and you know, why that affects response times and so forth. And we asked her specifically, how many people do you have and how many would it take for you to feel you were fully staffed just in Zone 6? She said right now she has 97 people assigned. She would feel comfortable if she had 20 more. So that's a pretty substantial number that we still need to make up if you multiply that times all the other zones as well. Although she did say that they have several officers now who have been either promoted or who came in as transfers from other departments that are identified as senior police officers. They're more experienced. They're able to sort of bring along the new recruits. And that's really helping them to be successful. In terms of special events, she also told us that she has and this is informal, it's not a city thing, but she has her own checklist that she uses when she is evaluating special permit applications. And she has shared that with us. I'll share it with you, Debbie, but she's looking at a lot of the things we care about, like having a stationary officer that's handling parking on streets that are closed and a lot of those issues, making sure that some of the officers who are working the event are APD sworn officers so that they can write tickets and handle arrests without having to pull somebody off regular shift to do that. So those are good things. She also told us that vehicle crimes are 50 to 60% of the total crimes that we have in the zone. This is car thefts and car break-ins. But the good news is that they're down about 25% of the zone year over year in violent crimes. So that's really encouraging. One of the significant problems that they're having, we asked how they're doing with PAD and how that's working. And she said it would be working great if there were any beds in the city. But they're having a real problem that they have these people who are willing to go into the program, but they don't have any place to house them. So she's working along with some of the other command staff with the city to identify more beds for those folks. And also one of our chronic complaints is always noise complaints. And she has purchased some decibel meters for the officers. She said they don't require a lot of training. They're pretty self-explanatory. And the officers will have those to go out and respond to noise complaints. So that should really help them with doing charging in those instances. And that's it.
Great. Any questions for Kay? Is there a similar group that meets in Zone 2?
There is, yeah, and they had their meeting the week before. Phyllis was on the call and I was going to ask her to talk about what they talked about in their meeting, but I think she has left us. But yeah, they have a regular, what they call a CAC meeting. I think they do theirs every month or every 2 months. But we're doing real well to have one once a quarter, and we have a great turnout of all the safety chairs from all of the neighborhoods throughout the zone that are showing up for that call.
Okay. Okay, I have an APAB report. APAB met last Saturday. That was our July meeting. There were 2 outputs from the meeting. The first was that APAB's undergoing a strategic planning process. They started back in February, and they're at the point of after setting priorities, they are looking at mission and vision and goals. There was agreement on the APAB's mission statement. Unfortunately, I don't have it because it changed about 3 times before it was voted on. And then the second output was a resolution that asked planning to not change current zoning designations, either overtly or covertly. That resolution was referred back to the Zoning and Land Use Committee for revisions. It's still pretty raw, I think. There was a second resolution that was voted down, and that was asking city arborists to audit tree DDH designations. There's some feeling by some parts of the city that the DDH designations are more convenient than accurate. And then I've been asked by the president of APAB to be the bylaws chair to incorporate the new base rules. Base is the official city boards and committees rules and procedures into the bylaws and to restructure the officer lineup since planning is now going to start doing all the work. So I got suckered back into the organization.
Just when you think you've escaped.
I know. The 2023 Community Impact Project status. I've got some project reports. I'm going to read the results. For those of you that are here that want to embellish, please go ahead. The first is Sidney Marcus Park signage for new parking entrance. That sign has been installed and the project is completed very early in the year. Congratulations. The Friends of Orm Park project, their grant was to install native plants. They report that they've held 5 volunteer work days in 23 to remove invasive species and clear the areas where the new native plants will be installed. They focused on removal of Agnes, privet, cherry laurel. I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
Okay. And they're partnering with Zoo Atlanta to arrange pickups of the privet and the Agnes for the zoo animals to eat, which I think is kind of cool. They have spent a portion of their money on tool rentals, which was part of their project, and also some coffee and donuts, and on some reusable signs for the work days. So they are moving ahead on the project. And then the Lindridge Martin Manor Armand Park Install Native Plants project. They've received the quote for the purchase and installation of the plants, but are waiting until the weather cools off. So their installation's been delayed until September or October. I do not have a Piedmont Heights neighborhood gateway sign report for this. Anyone want to add to any of those or correct my notes? Okay. For chair report, I just have a couple items. One is that there is no update on the SAP at 1783 Cheshire Bridge Road. That's the former Rhodes Bakery location with the proposed bathhouse. My understanding is that no decision has been made and they're not talking about it. Second, a reminder, if you live near Piedmont Park and your street becomes impassable during a special event, call 911 and also notify your street captain. The street captain leads for both neighborhoods, and the neighborhood public safety chairs for both Virginia Highland and MLPA have contact information for the event organizer and their security leads, so they can help in getting that resolved if you can't. And then also let me know if there's anything that I should take note of for future special events organizer planning. And finally, a reminder that we still need candidates for the NPU Executive Committee. Our elections will be held in November. Nominations will start in October. If you're interested in being an officer, we do have some critical positions that need to be filled. The NPU doesn't work without a team. So please seriously consider giving some time to the NPU. And that's it for the chair's report. Any questions about that? Alrighty, there's no old business or unfinished business. There is one item on the proposed bylaw under new business. Kay is recommending a modification of the voting section for business members to become members of the NPU. Kay, do you want to explain what you're recommending?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can figure it out from this, but basically we had a very, very involved and cumbersome process for businesses to become voting members. they had to send us notarized documents, and it could only be the president or, you know, these very senior officers, which for a large multi-location corporation is really not feasible. And it's not in practice what we do. We largely treat business owners the same way we treat residents. You know, if you demonstrate that you are someone in authority at that business and that the address is within the NPU, then, you know, we grant you right to vote the same as we do with residents. So it's basically cleaning that up, and it's accepting that, for example, in a large corporation, you're going to have a local agent that's registered with the Secretary of State. You're not going to have access to the president of the company. And so it allows for the registered agent with the Secretary of State to voting member, as opposed to an officer of the company. So those are the two primary changes, is just cleaning that up a little bit and making it really conform to what we're actually doing and what's reasonable expectations. A business still gets one vote regardless of who it is. So even if they wanted to designate the janitor, they still get one vote, compared to, you know, all of the rest of us getting one vote. So that's the change.
Any
That
questions?
makes sense, Debbie?
Yeah, it does. But this is a very, very complex, bulky process that really needed to be cleaned up for a long time. Anyone have any questions about that? We won't actually vote on any bylaw amendments until September. In the past, I have scheduled a July executive committee meeting, but it comes at a weird time for me, so I couldn't do it next week. If we need a meeting, I'll schedule it. What do y'all think?
I don't require a meeting, but if other folks do, maybe we should ask that question when the members of the executive committee are available. Most of them are here.
Yeah, I think we've scrubbed our bylaws there.
Yeah, that's literally the only change I've seen proposed.
Yeah, and also I think we're up to date on our policy statement as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so if unless I receive some comments or concerns, I will include this as a proposed amendment. And if anyone's interested in seeing the document, there's only a handful of us left here. So, I can send that to you. Is there any other business to come before the NPU tonight? We're at the end of the agenda.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Debbie. Thank you,
I
Kate.
second.
Thank
you, everyone.
The time
Good
is
night.
9:39. Thank you all for sticking around, being at the meeting. It's been a good meeting tonight. We got a lot accomplished.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you. When we're back, school's going to be back in session.
Yeah, that's why Leah was not here tonight, because they are really scrambling. School starts next week and Virginia Highland Elementary is not even close to ready. So she had 2 different project meetings and, you know, things they were trying to get done.
School starts next week.
Maybe 10 days, something like that. It starts like August 1st or 2nd or 3rd, somewhere in there. I can't get used to it because when I was growing up north, it was always after Labor Day.
Oh, here too. Just saying that.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, so they do things differently here now.
No. Well, now, yeah. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Thank
You
you,
too.
Holly.
Bye.
Did you get everything you needed, Carol?
Yes, thank you. I saved